Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into James Clear's Atomic Habits. The core idea is actually pretty simple, but it is a total game changer. The idea is that real, massive success doesn't come from some huge overnight transformation. Nope. It comes from the compound effect of hundreds of tiny decisions, these little atomic habits that, bit by bit, shape our days and ultimately our entire lives.
So the book kicks off with this just gut-wrenching moment. The author, James Clear, his life was completely shattered in an instant. A baseball bat slipped out of a classmate's hands, flew through the air, and hit him square in the face. We're talking a broken nose, multiple skull fractures, 2 shattered eye sockets. It was bad. And his journey back from that, from his absolute lowest point, is what eventually led him to become this world-renowned expert on habits.
All right, so from that incredibly low point, we get to the core principle of the whole book, the power of 1%. This is all about how tiny, almost unnoticeable improvements can, over time, lead to absolutely profound results.
After that injury, he had no choice but to start small. Getting stronger in the gym, getting back on the baseball field, even building his business later on, it all started with these tiny, consistent habits. And through that journey, he stumbled upon a strategy that some of the most elite performers in the world, like the British cycling team, had used to get these incredible results.
This is Dave Brailsford, and his story is amazing. He was hired to turn around British cycling, and get this, for 100 years the team was, well, they were a joke, just completely mediocre. Top bike companies wouldn't even sell them gear because they were afraid it would make their own brands look bad. So what did Brailsford do? He introduced this idea he called the aggregation of marginal gains. They just improved everything by a tiny 1% margin. The ergonomics of the bike seats, the grip of the tires, even the type of massage gel they used on the riders. Everything. And the results? They were absolutely staggering.
Okay, and this is where the math just gets insane. If you get just 1% better at something each day for a year, you don't end up 365% better. No way. Because of compounding, you end up nearly 37 times better. Think about that. That's the explosive, mind-bending power of compounding at work.
And you can really see that effect right here, can't you? Day to day, these tiny gains and tiny losses, they feel like nothing. They make almost no difference. But you zoom out over time, and that gap between them becomes enormous. It's a stark reminder, right? Your habits are either compounding for you or they're compounding against you. Success isn't about some once-in-a-lifetime transformation. It's the product of your daily habits.
You ever feel like you're just spinning your wheels? You're putting in all this work, but nothing seems to be happening? Well, you're probably in what Clear calls the plateau of latent potential. The analogy he uses is perfect. Imagine you have an ice cube and you start heating it up. It goes from 25 degrees to 26, nothing. 27, 28, 29, still just an ice cube. It feels like your effort is wasted, but it's not. It's being stored. And then you hit 32 degrees and bam, the breakthrough happens. It's the same for our habits. All that early effort is just building up potential until you finally hit that tipping point.
Okay, so now we get why these tiny habits are so powerful. But the next big question is, how do they actually work inside our brains? Let's dig into that. So, it turns out every single habit you have, and I mean everything, from mindlessly checking your phone to brewing your morning coffee, is run by a simple 4-step pattern that your brain goes through in the exact same order every single time.
So first up, you've got the cue. Think of it as the trigger that kicks the whole thing off. That cue then leads to a craving. You know, that little motivational itch you feel you need to scratch. That prompts a response, which is the actual habit itself. And finally, you get a reward, which basically tells your brain, hey, that was good. Let's remember this loop for next time.
And you can see here, it's not just a one-and-done sequence. It's this endless feedback loop. Cue, craving, response, reward. Over and over again. This cycle is literally running every single moment you're awake, just chugging along in the background, creating all those automatic behaviors that make up so much of our lives.
All right, now for the fun part, the really practical stuff. Once you understand this habit loop, you can actually start to engineer it, to, hack your own habits. And Clear gives us this fantastic toolkit to do just that. First up, there's habit stacking. Super simple. You just piggyback a new habit onto a habit you already do without thinking. Like, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. See? Easy. Then you've got temptation bundling. This one's genius. You pair something you need to do with something you want to do. Like you only let yourself listen to your favorite podcast while you're on the treadmill. And finally, the brilliant 2-minute rule. You shrink any new habit down so it takes less than 2 minutes. Read before bed becomes read 1 page. The point isn't to get fit or become a bookworm in 2 minutes. The point is to make starting so ridiculously easy that you can't say no.
But here's the thing. All these tools, these hacks, they aren't really the final goal. The biggest, most powerful idea in this entire book goes way deeper. It's not about what you do, it's about who you are. You see, most of us, we try to build habits based on outcomes. The goal is, I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to clean my messy room. But what's the problem with that? It's temporary. You clean the room, but if you're not fundamentally a tidy person, that mess is just going to come right back. Real, lasting change comes from identity-based habits, where the focus isn't on what you want to achieve, but on the person you wish to become. And this really gets to the core of it. True change, real, lasting change, is identity change. Motivation might get you to the gym once or twice, sure, but the only reason you'll stick with it is that you start to see yourself as the type of person who doesn't miss workouts. Once your pride and your self-image get wrapped up in it, you will fight to protect that identity. I love this idea of voting. Think about it. Every single action you take is like casting a vote for the type of person you want to become. Doing one push-up doesn't transform your body overnight, right? Of course not. But it does cast a vote for, I'm the kind of person who exercises. And these tiny little votes, they add up. Over time, they build the overwhelming evidence for your new identity.
So that leaves us with one question, really. What identity are you trying to build? What kind of person do you want to be? And what tiny atomic habit can you do today to cast that very first vote for your future self? Because that's where real change begins. Thanks for checking out this explainer.